When We Disagree is a show about arguments, how we have them, why we have them, and their impact on our relationships and ourselves. Before I had a cell phone, and I didn't get one until I was 25, I used to carry around a handwritten list of my friends and family's phone numbers folded up in my wallet. I could remember some of them off the top of my head, and I also used to be able to drive from point A to point B wherever I was living without a map on my phone relatively easily. I don't say this to brag or to date myself. I make these points to suggest that we have outsourced our memories to our technology. Well, not all of us. We remember from math class that 3.14 is called pi, and that number goes on forever after the 0.14. One Japanese man successfully memorized fairly recently 111,700 digits of pi, and that was in 2015. Memory is an important point when considering persuasive arguments, not just big numbers. In fact, memory was one of the 5 canons of rhetoric discussed in what is now the oldest surviving textbook on persuasive public speaking. The book is called the Rhetorica ad Herennium, and it was written 2,000 years ago. Persuasive speeches and elaborate stories would have been performed from memory at the time, but even now, audiences respond best to speech that seems unrehearsed, even if that speech is really well rehearsed. Think of your reaction when you accidentally answer a telemarketing call and you can tell the person on the other end is reading from a script. The 2,000-year-old work on memory is notable for another reason as well, and that's called the memory palace. Say you need to memorize lots of information. How do you do it? The author, the ancient author, suggests imagining this information and then wandering through a palace in your mind that you've created. Each room, or even each wall of each room, contains the information you need to remember. It's placed strategically around the palace. What was that obscure court case that you need to remember? Oh, you left that in the 3rd bedroom on the left, upstairs. As you move throughout the house, the information you group together that is carefully placed in each room becomes more accessible to you. I'm Michael Lee, Professor of Communication and Director of the Civility Initiative at the College of Charleston. Our guest today on When We Disagree is Tom Kneff. He is the editor of the College of Charleston magazine, and he's originally from New Jersey. Tom, tell us an argument story.
Good morning, Mike. Thank you for having me. My argument story began in 2016 when Donald Trump was elected president. I have a friend in New Jersey that the argument I had was with a friend in New Jersey, and it started out pretty much. It was contained to Facebook, which is I'm really embarrassed to say because arguing on Facebook is just the most pointless thing in the world. But because nobody changes their beliefs and everybody just gets in broadsides. But I actually went back and looked at some of those arguments we had in preparation for this, for our podcast today. And I thought I was pretty, even though we were on opposite sides. He's a huge Trump supporter and I'm not. I thought I was pretty equanimous in the sense that I tried to see his point of view, and I don't think he ever tried to see my point of view, when it came to arguing, not just about Trump, but about climate change and, just so many, differences that the right and left have on various policies like that. We just would get into it. And I would try to see his point of view, but he's a very smart guy. Went to Duke. I think he majored in history, so he really knows his history. And he was a good he was somebody good to argue with because I really had to brush up on if I was going to make a point. I had to brush up on it. But of course, then other people on Facebook got involved in arguing with him and me, and because. There'd be conservative people on his side who could have access to the arguments, and liberal friends on my side who would jump in there. So it was crazy. And but what started out as kind of sort of I don't know if it was ever friendly, but it wasn't hostile. By a year or two into Trump's presidency, when I could barely stand to look at the guy, I think my comments got more vitriolic, and so did his, and it definitely affected our relationship. I mean, this is a guy we grew up together, very close. We were both tennis players, and that's how we knew one another and played tennis together our whole lives. And I guess I don't know what prompted me to kind of get into this argument with him, given that I really valued his friendship,
Yeah.
But I guess I like to argue, first of all. I love a good argument, which is probably not a good thing. My mom always said I should have been a lawyer because I always was kind of argumentative, which is something I've tried to, and I love being right, and those are things I've tried to become more self-aware of, and not try to always be right, and be so argumentative. Try to see other points of view.
Let me jump in and ask you about a specific point of collision. Obviously, you're arguing about Trump. Maybe you're arguing about right v left stuff across the board, including climate change or guns or who knows.
Everything.
Can you think about a specific instance, either where the distance between you felt cavernous or an instance where you felt like your vitriol went too far for the relationship to be sustainable?
Yes. Some of our attack, we started attacking each other more and more, and some of the worst attacks might have been relegated to texting, even, and it even there, I think because it was on Facebook, I think I held back some of, I was trying to be, you're on a public forum almost,
Sure.
so I wasn't,
for better and for worse.
For better and for worse. So I try to be somewhat not too. I didn't want to come off as too strident on Facebook, even though I probably did. But I was careful with my words, knowing a little bit anyway, knowing how many people could see it. But I think in some of our text exchanges, it got heated, and it was clear that there was this relationship that I valued had deteriorated to a point where we were no longer friends, and that really bothered me.
Yeah, were there particular flashpoints? In other words, were there political issues, speeches Trump gave? Issues of national security, issues at the border, taxes, or just the whole thing?
It was just the whole thing. It was just one thing after another. I mean, it was almost anything Trump did that we would be engaging with one another. And he is such a big Trump supporter where Trump could do no wrong, wouldn't admit to any of his faults or anything like that.
Nothing, no giving ground.
No giving ground there. And I was so convinced that Trump was no way was he qualified to be president, that there was no way he was going to last, that I even bet him, but I bet my friend $1,000 that Trump would not make it to 4 years, which was probably was a stupid thing. What I should have said is he'll get impeached for sure. He'll get impeached because that could easily happen given like the things he did with Ukraine, holding money for arms until he got dirt on Joe Biden.
You'd have $2,000 if you had that bet twice.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
but you ended up paying him $1,000.
Yeah. So at one point we just stopped communicating. I would say, it was before the 2020 election because I finally came to my senses and realized that this I had and I, you know, even though it takes two to argue.
Sure.
I manned up, and when I was up in New Jersey, I went by his house and knocked on his door
Uh-huh.
and apologized.
And what were you apologizing for?
I said, I just want to say I'm sorry for some of my comments, and I didn't. I value your friendship, and I really don't want this to come between us. I said some things I regret, and I paid him the money, and he
Hopefully in $1 bills.
No, I think I might have Venmoed him, I think. But anyway, that was that lesson stung, but he was gracious. He did not admit himself. He did not admit that he was wrong at all. But he
Yeah.
did say, I'm big on apologies, and our relationship has, I wouldn't say it's back to where it was, but we text each other occasionally. I see him occasionally. But it definitely left some kind of, it definitely affected our relationship to the point where at least we're talking now, and we're friends again. But I
Yeah.
don't know if we could ever be friends like we were before. But the lesson for me out of all this was, don't reduce somebody to their politics. People are more than their politics. And I think I was guilty of that. But and I wasn't really a political person before Trump became elected, but I was just so disappointed that people would vote for such a charlatan, I still can't get my head around how people could
Yeah.
vote for this guy. And I'm dating a woman now who is a Republican and probably will vote for him, but we don't go there, and I won't reduce her to her politics, and she's not very political. My friend up in New Jersey was super political. I mean, I can, thinking back on it, he was always railing against this politician or that politician, and it just
Yeah.
didn't really interest me that much. But
You keep finding yourselves in relationships with people with whom you have political disagreements.
well, fortunately, my girlfriend and I really don't discuss politics, so occasionally it might come up. But but again, she is such a incredible person that I'm not. People, again, I think I can look past people's politics.
I want to come back to that one, but I'm struck by the Doorside visit when you're in New Jersey and you go by the guy's house. I'm struck by three things, and I'm curious to hear you talk about them. One, it seems like a very magnanimous gesture on your part to show up at his house and apologize and, of course, pay the money. But aside from that, honor the bet and go forward with the relationship and hope to kind of move past this disagreeable administration. But two, the way that you've told the story, I haven't heard much to apologize for. Are you apologizing for arguing? But then three, it also sounds in that moment and maybe in the other moments that you've rendered that you were the one working harder at the disagreeing, at the listening, and at the relationship, especially if you're the only one apologizing.
Yeah, that's probably true. I don't know how much it bothered him, but I just wanted to clear the air with him, and just try to get back, to some level of friendship that we had before. But it again, as I said, I think we're not, I don't know if we'll ever get back to that level.
Yeah.
And part of it is I think he has a hard time as a Democrat. He just thinks Democrats are the that's what's wrong with the world, or Democrats.
Scum of the earth.
Yeah.
Type of stuff.
And
Yeah.
that if Republicans could run things, this world would be a lot better off. And he's just so disgusted. I think he lumps me in with that crap. Sure. He blames me, like he blames all Democrats for all the problems going on in our country.
Yeah. And so in a sense, to go back to the Tom principle of talking about politics, which is not to reduce people to their politics, you then feel in turn that he's reducing you to your politics and maybe reducing global problems to one set of political actors.
Yes, I don't think Todd would probably have too many liberal friends like me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my friend, I think he would, unlike me, who could, have a girlfriend who's Republican.
Right.
I doubt he certainly couldn't be with an outspoken Democratic person. He might. I'm not sure if his wife. I imagine she leans Republican, but if she had any leanings, I doubt he would welcome to hear them.
Yeah.
I think you should be willing to have a good give and take, and that even though you disagree, you can do it in a way that is respectful. But I do get the sense that he is still disgusted with my views, and that's kind of maybe inhibiting our relationship now.
Let's talk about that disgust for a moment, because between him and your girlfriend, your relationships with folks who disagree with you is interesting to me. Do you like having friends with differences, friends with whom disagreement is possible?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Again, I think I'm more comfortable with it now, maybe because I don't need to be right. I'm more interested. One thing I used to do a lot, if somebody said they were a Trump supporter, I'd be like, "How could you vote for that man? I mean, he gropes women, he cheats everybody who's ever worked for him. He stiffs them. He's on and on and on and on." And now what I do is, and I've met people on the golf course. I met a guy playing in a golf tournament who had the great Make America Great Again hat on. And, it's like, oh no, I got to play a whole golf tournament with this guy with the Make America Great hat on. And not only that, but he made honey that he sold at Trump rallies, and I said to him, instead of, I didn't say anything and didn't give my views. I said, "What do you like about Trump? Tell me what you like about Trump." And that's what I've tried to do, and even though I want to desperately rail against the man and get my point across, I say, "Oh, okay. All right. That's interesting. Okay. I try, I don't even almost engage them. I just listen,
Right. This guy's a golfing beekeeper who's making American honey again.
His honey was Make Honey Great Again, I think was his.
That checks out.
Was the name of his? I don't know if he actually where he got. I don't think he was a beekeeper himself, but if he was, if he were a beekeeper, he would know that climate changing and is affecting the bees a lot. So.
It makes for a better story if he's a golfing MAGA beekeeper. But I want to come back to, and let's close on this point. I'm struck by, super interested in, and wrestling with your concept about not reducing people to their politics. Because on the one hand, absolutely, one way it seems to me to depolarize our world is to not make people the sum of their politics, to give grace where grace is due, to admit that we all make mistakes, also to admit that we all have internal contradictions. We all live with contradiction some of the time, for sure. And some of us live with contradiction all of the time. But that seems like a really, really positive move forward. And at the same time, if it came out that one of my close friends or family members was hypothetically a Holocaust denier, that would be deeply revealing to me.
Yeah.
And I would say to myself, how could you believe that? And what are the other things that you believe that even make that belief possible? And then in turn, how can I dignify that belief by giving my attention to you? And so it does seem like that has a limit, at least in terms of my comfort, and if not, the politics I would pursue amongst others. So where is the line for you?
Right. I think that would, somebody who's a Holocaust denier would, I don't think my friend in New Jersey would go that far. I think, even though Trumpers tend to be conspiracy theorists, and it's so disappointing that when everything's a conspiracy theory, nothing's a conspiracy, but it's sad how everything is a conspiracy these days, and we can't agree on the same set of facts anymore.
But for a few extreme conspiracy theories and or just abhorrent beliefs, the point is still the same, which is when you deal with political difference, try not to reduce people to those differences.
Yeah, and try to listen to them. Try to maybe you'll learn something, because I think we all we want that echo chamber of
Right.
yes, you're right. That climate change is the existential threat of our time.
Right.
Whereas maybe there I don't know if there's two sides to that, but at least you can be open-minded about it. I think that's the greatest trait almost anybody could have, is to be open-minded, and at least think about what they're saying.
It's such a hard position to advocate for in a way, because again, we're back to, you need to work harder and hear people out and be curious about their positions or what facts they're working towards. And to say that many of the things you're being curious about are election conspiracy theories and or climate denialism and or.
Right.
And so then you're opening yourself up to what sound like you're saying are misinformation.
Yeah, you are.
So we need to be curious about misinformation.
I think we just need to just be open-minded to hear what their point of view is.
Right.
I don't think I could be swayed that easily that I would accept misinformation, without looking at facts and evidence and say, what's your evidence for that? I would think most people probably wouldn't be swayed that easily, but maybe not,
Tom, thank you so much for being on When We Disagree.
My pleasure, Mike. Thank you.
When We Disagree is recorded at the College of Charleston with creator and host Michael Lee. Recording and sound engineering by Jesse Kunz and Lance Laidlaw. Reach out to us at whenwedisagree@gmail.com.